Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Welcome back to Hamilton101. Full credit to Sasha for the intro on that one. I owe him a beer. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 332 of Motorsport 101. No, we didn't just go for an entire brand change. Lewis Hamilton is not paying us to change the name of the podcast. Although, if he wants to, my email is available. Dre at Motorsport101. Holler at your boy. Welcome to episode 332. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Dre Harrison. And, oh boy, did we get a Brazilian Grand Prix or what? To put it into perspective, we do write a little bit in notes form about each episode before we get going. This is the longest one I've ever written for a Formula 1 race. This was ridiculous. Wow. It was a sprint weekend. We had engine penalties. We had overtakes, collisions, drama. You had just about everything in this Grand Prix, to say the least. So, let's go around the horn to get cracking first and foremost. First with me, King. How you doing, big man? And first of all, are we sure it's the Brazilian Grand Prix? Because I know you've been a bit of a stickler for this over the last week or so.
Well, it is a part of Formula 1 management guidelines that media should use the official name of the race, and unfortunately is the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. In my heart, it's the Brazilian Grand Prix, but it's the Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
King, when you upload this episode, I demand you put the Brazilian name in there. It's the true name of this Grand Prix. We are not falling for this Sao Paulo bullshit, okay? It's still the Brazilian Grand Prix to me, damn it. To my right, RJ O'Connell. Hello, sir.
Not to be like any other one of a number of mediocre white man and play devil's advocate but I say let's embrace the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, because the federal government of Brazil was not sponsoring this race to have happen. If you know the history about the proposed Rio track and who's behind it, and why it was supposed to have happen, I'm still calling it the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, if nothing else, because I've memorized how to do that little squiggly mark above the A in Sao. I put that to good use. Put to you this way, this race was so wild that Nicholas Latifi out-qualifying George Russell to Williams for the first time in 2 seasons didn't even make the show.
Yes! Nicholas Latifi, a wholesome Canadian Nutella son.
My client, Nicholas Latifi, conquered George Russell's undefeated qualifying streak at WrestleMania. Sex year 2020 notwithstanding, of course.
And then threw the team under the bus after the race on team radio because he didn't like the strategy call he gotten. Oh, Nick, what a day. What a day. And to my bottom right, we have Cameron Buckley. Hello, sir. How's it going?
I am so full of antibiotics that I can't think straight. But I am here. That's why I got nothing. Why are the Knicks good? Why are the Celtics crap?
Bing bong.
Bing bong.
I can't even laugh because my Lakers are horribly mediocre as well, to say the least. Like, we are all down bad except for Kings Knicks, of all things. I don't like it here. This is not familiar territory for me. I don't like it.
But hey, don't worry. You got yourself a brand new arena sponsor that's kicking in on Christmas that everybody loves.
It's still the Staples
No more
Center
crypto.
to me.
Welcome to Crypto.com Arena.
Soon enough, we're going to be saying welcome to Crypto 101.
Oh no!
And that is the day I leave. That is the day I leave the show.
Lewis Hamilton can buy me out anytime. I draw the line at crypto.
I don't know. If there were enough zeros on the check and they're not paying me in crypto, maybe.
Trust me, enough people tell us that
they will pay you in crypto.
Trust me, enough people say that we're bought off by Lewis Hamilton and our coverage of Formula One as is.
Yeah. Like we're renaming the show Hamilton101. Apparently, he paid me in 50 limited edition versions of Pierre Gasly's NFTs. Apparently, they're coming in the mail real soon. We'll have to wait and see. But yes, the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. We'll be talking all about that over the next 45 minutes or so. Lewis Hamilton. My God, Lewis Hamilton. All of Lewis Hamilton. I promise you he's not paid us. I absolutely swear. But it was a decent weekend for him, to say the least. But we'll also talk about how we got to that point via the rear wing gap seen around the world. I think we're going to go with Flappygate for this one. I'm not sure if that was the best nickname available. We'll roll with it. We'll talk about the chop block that Max Verstappen put on Lewis Hamilton as well. More sprint talk, and the final seat on the 2022 grid was confirmed. A little bit of history will be made as China has its first Formula One driver.
Ni hao, motherfuckers!
But who is it? We'll find out at the end of the show. But places you can find us in the meantime, we're on youtube.com/motorsport101. If you're here, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. We're on facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101. And if you'd like to follow our usernames personally, you can see us at Harrison101HD, at RJ O'Connell, at CBuckley917, and at Ryan Eric King. You can follow us out on there. We're on Instagram at Motorsport101Pod. You can check us out on there as well for some bonus content, and that's all fun and good. And if you really like us, you can back us financially on Patreon. Patreon.com/Motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to one of our audio episodes, 10 for the video versions, and access to the supporters club of our Discord server where you can listen to these shows live as they're being recorded. All that and the details or more on motorsport101.com, our website. Right. And without further ado, let's get into the Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
The Grand Prix at Interlagos.
That one.
Hamilton, holy shit! Y'all, this was wild. Let's start. Friday night, Lewis Hamilton gets first in sprint qualifying ahead of Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen. But then a bombshell! Hamilton's car fails scrutineering. His DRS flap on his rear wing opens beyond the 85 millimeter limit. But hold on, we got another twist because the fan captured footage of Max Verstappen touching Hamilton's rear wing after the sprint qualifying session. The investigation went overnight and into Saturday afternoon. We were waiting almost 24 hours of this. Like, we thought Leclerc versus Verstappen in Austria 2019 went long. That had nothing on this.
No.
So we didn't get
almost
a
as
decision.
long as Valtteri Bottas's pit stop in Monaco.
We got the decision coming in an hour before the sprint. Verstappen gets 50,000 euros fine for touching the rear wing under Park for May. That FIA gala bill is going to be lit. I'm sorry. Donation to any one of FIA's numerous charities. Oh, and Lewis Hamilton would be disqualified from traditional qualifying, so he had to start sprint qualifying from the back. As for the sprint, totally not a race, but it looks like a race, it walks like a race, and talks like a race, it smells like a race, but it's definitely not a race. Valtteri Bottas beats Verstappen to turn one, leads the rest of the way to take 3 bonus points, but Lewis Hamilton put on his last to first challenge. He didn't quite get to first, but he did pass 15 cars in 24 laps to finish 5th. And with his 5-place grid drop for changing internal combustion engines already in the bank before any of this got started, Hamilton would start the feature race in 10th. To the Grand Prix, Max Verstappen takes the lead at turn 1. Hamilton's already up to 6th by the end of the opening lap. By lap 7, Hamilton's already up to 3rd. Valtteri Bottas gave him some help, of course. Dutifully following the line. You're not out of that contract just yet. Sergio Perez provides some resistance before the first round of stops. Hamilton passes Perez, then Perez passes him back on the next DRS zone, then Hamilton passes him back again. It was great fun. 2 rounds of stops later, this was a 2-stopper. Hamilton puts Verstappen under immense pressure, including a pass attempt out round the outside of Decido del Lago, with Matt seemingly opening his steering on the exit, putting both of them off the track. The stewards deemed no investigation as necessary at the time, which would have set really bad in Lewis Hamilton fans' stomachs had it not been for the fact that a few laps later, Hamilton finally took Verstappen with an aggressive move into Decido del Lago again, going on to win by just over 10 seconds. An astonishing comeback for our on-brand career win number 101. Verstappen finished second, Bottas finished third, Sergio Perez finished fourth and got the fastest lap, purple football. And guess what else has happened? Since the start of this week, Mercedes has exercised its right to review on the initial Turn 4 incident. It'll be heard by the stewards a day after this is being recorded. So you'll hear more about that next week. Holy shit, gang.
This was so much we didn't even mention the €5,000 fine that Hamilton copped for taking his seatbelt off on the live track after the race had finished.
Yeah, but between the fine for the seatbelts and the fine for the rear wing stroke, that's a lot of McChickens.
Oh yeah,
that would buy so many Xboxes.
So much, like the suspended 25,000 part of that fine is being sent in the form of a bottle of Ferrari going to Valencia for Valentino Rossi's retirement party. I was like,
I'm not here. I'm going to handle over the check. Just like, hey guys.
Y'all.
Okay. What? Here's one on the house from your friends at Mercedes.
Okay. Well, let's rein it in, folks. Was that Lewis Hamilton's greatest race weekend? If not, is it at least in the top 10, top 5? Where are you putting this one?
I'd say it's guaranteed to be in the top 5. Best ever, it's debatable, but it has a great case.
It's got to be like top 2 for me. Like, it's that. I actually think that weekend as a whole, that was better than Britain 08.
Wow.
That might be his best. It might be his best win ever.
I hate that Cam Buckley read my mind, because that's exactly what I was going to suggest as a counter-argument to play devil's advocate, and he's like, shit, he stole my line. Look, it's right up there. It's in the... like, to quote Al Michaels when Odell Beckham made that backwards grab against the Cowboys, it's in the conversation.
Los Angeles Rams legend Odell Beckham.
Of course. Good luck to him. Good luck to him in his 2 for 27 yards. But no, I was going to say, like, this was outrageous. This was absolutely like I had to say, the shithousery coming out of the Mercedes team with Toto Wolff acting like Kevin Keegan, like in the days of Newcastle. I will love it if we beat them. Flexing behind the desk, but it was his team that put him in that pickle in the first place, because Hamilton might have just saved their championship run. Like, that is tremendous shithousery of the highest order.
Fuck them all. Fuck them all.
I'm killing time here. That was magnificent from Hamilton. He was put under the barrel of a gun. This was a championship defining weekend. We were not joking when we said it last week. This was win or bust for Hamilton and Mercedes. The fact that they won would have been crazy enough. To do it from the back of the goddamn grid in sprint qualifying. He passed 25 cars over the course of this weekend. 25! And won the race by 10 seconds! It is an unbelievable victory from Lewis Hamilton. We were gushing over Verstappen last week, and that lasted, what, six days and 22 hours?
Two complete, just super beat-em-downs from the 2 championship elects. 2 weeks in a row.
We thought this was dead and buried. We really did
this was dead and buried after that exclusive. I already had a piece written up saying that, like, yeah, if everything stays the way it is going into sprint qualifying, Verstappen wins the sprint and then goes on to win the race, even if Hamilton finishes second, Lewis Hamilton has to hope Max Verstappen retires from a race to have any chance. It's out of his hands.
And now
he brought his championship bid off of life support. You know, we were all thinking, like, folks, we got to drive down the hospital if we want to see Lewis Hamilton's 2021 championship bid one more time before it passed away. And then all of a sudden, Lewis Hamilton gets up off the hospital bed. It's like, I'm still here.
Sat up out of the coffin.
Oh, it's full Undertaker out of the coffin. Like
It's
straight
Undertaker
it up.
out of the coffin, but without a thin blue line T-shirt.
Yeah, precisely.
Thank God.
No, it's so true though. I mean, how did we go from a week ago thinking this was Verstappen about to land the killing blow to, hang on a minute, Hamilton might be favourite again? I mean, don't get me wrong, the new engine absolutely played a big role in this. There is no matter which way you're slicing it. This is not a shot at Lewis. Please do not hunt me down on social media.
Our show is named Hamilton101.
Yeah, please don't stalk my Twitter and unblock me and block me constantly.
No, I'll never do that.
Look, I give it about 50-50. On one hand, Lewis Hamilton's straight line speed was immense. He was at time in the DRS, he was over 30 clicks faster than some of the cars he was passing. But in order to use that around here, and you can use that at Interlagos, this is a place where you can pass, and you don't need 3.5 seconds of delta over someone to overcome the dirty air. Lewis was setting up his laps perfectly. And that enabled him to get that run down the front straight. At the same time, those first two straights are about 45% of the overall lap here. They could not have picked a better weekend to have the unmitigated disaster of an engine penalty and then a quali disqualification.
It's like the racing gods were just effing with Mercedes at this point. It's like, we're going to give you a disqualification from a qualifying session on a millimeter that was a wing that was 0.2 of a millimeter too small, and an engine penalty, but we're going to give you a sprint race to help catch up too, just to make it a bit more interesting. It's like the racing gods put that on for our amusement, and it delivered in every way. And look, engine or no engine, it was fun. We'll get to that in a bit. But look, no matter which way you slice it, engine or no engine, his execution was flawless. It was absolutely flawless, and it had to be. Because Verstappen drove out of his skin again to even hold him off for as long as he did, as far as I was concerned.
That was 40 laps of Verstappen. We'll get to that a little later, because,
Yeah, even though I should point out that usually all the people making the new engine arguments are just people online, and when you look at the social media of other drivers, they're losing their mind thinking, how is Lewis doing this? If other drivers are having that opinion, I think we should take them at face value.
Yeah, like, poor Jeff got carpet bombed for that opinion during the race itself. We like Jeff. Leave Jeff alone, people, okay?
Yeah, Jeff's
He's a
got
good
new
boy.
contract and everything.
Jeff's already losing enough hair.
I was trying to be nice, and only had to go ruin it. No, it's...
Don't worry,
like
he's
I said,
keeping his
engine or
best
no
buddy. He's
engine.
an FE teammate. It's gonna be great.
Engine or no engine, look, like, he was incredible. His execution was flawless. The fact he was doing things like spooking Verstappen into going defensive into turn one, something we've roasted people like Valtteri Bottas for in the past. Hamilton bullied that man for 20 laps and then finally pulled the pin on him after a couple of contentious clashes. It was brilliant. And yet another exhibition of the two best racing drivers in the world right now. And another clash, which we'll get to very briefly, but that was when Damon Hill is saying it was Hamilton, it was one of the best weekends he's ever seen. And Damon Hill has seen some shit since racing in the mid-90s. You know, I'm taking Damon Hill at his word, and quite rightly so.
Backtrack a bit. Let's backtrack a bit. So, Friday, Flappygate, Flappy Ghazi, Flappy Alago, and everything that comes with it. What'd you make of the disqualifications, the timings, Max Verstappen touching the car. Like, I think we all agree that, like, Max Verstappen would have had to have, like, the strength of the incredible...
yeah, we're signing him up as the first Avenger if he somehow caused that wing to break.
Like, if he
given that, specifically the DRS flap, because I had heard the argument that, pushing something the wrong way can cause an issue. The DRS flap has to deal with the enormous forces both ways. It has to go up. It has to snap back down. There's no way. And the initial camera angle made it look quite a bit worse than it was. It was some fan footage from people in the stands.
Yeah,
about 100 yards away.
Yeah, Formula One does
like...
not have their cameras on this. Netflix Box Films does not have their cameras on this. It's just some dude who catches this out in the grandstands. You don't even need to punch up the storyline in this next season of Drive to Survive. You've already got enough sizzle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but initial camera angle looked like Max had his fist balled up and was kind of pushing on both rear wings. And then a second angle came out that was just like he's just kind of looking at it measuring it with his thumb and grazed the back of the wing a little bit.
Yeah. And fair play. Hamilton admitted that this didn't impact, the fact that his car was 2 micrometers outside of technical legality.
Yes, because it seemed like at the time that, reports came out that the FIA were going to look at mitigating circumstances around the Mercedes wing failing scrutineering, and coincidentally, a couple minutes later, they summoned Max to visit the steward's office when everyone got back to the track the next morning. So people put 2 and 2 together and be like, "Oh my god!" Even though it later came out that the mitigating circumstances they were looking at were unrelated to Max Verstappen.
Yeah, because we saw in 2018. Seb put his foot on the back tire of a Mercedes and start rocking it back and forth in Park Fermé.
Seb had jokes
it's not
about
something you're
too.
supposed to do. There is actually a rule against this, but until this, where we had a car disqualified from a technical infringement, has this had any teeth because everyone's like, he's just kind of touching a car. But now, if you do it... Yeah. You got to pay for their dinner. You got to pay for a really, really nice dinner.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. Mattias Ekstrom from 2013 wishes he would have just got away with a light dinner.
Oh, look. That fine was so big, it's going to pay for a golden-encrusted steak at Salt Bay's restaurant in central London. That's how fucking ludicrous
it better
that
not
was.
pay for one of Trey Wingo's steaks and cooked inside a truck muffler from Peter Luger.
Oh, no. Look, the whole thing was crazy. I mean, I love the fact that we as a group were sat on Discord late night. Like, for me, it was really late night, being obviously in the UK compared to my American cohorts. I think it was about 1:30 in the morning UK time, and it was like, come back tomorrow, everybody. And I was like, oh, for fuck's
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Come back tomorrow morning. And I ended up watching the Knicks game with King instead, which didn't go well because we lost to the Hornets. But that was fun.
For the first time in decades of ownership that Michael Jordan wasn't disappointed in his team.
Though, in fairness, the Knicks had to lose that night because it was the first game in attendance for a certain New York Knicks fan.
Oh,
it was Scott McLaughlin's first Knicks game.
Oh,
that
should have empowered them, not taking it away.
I mean, yeah. There's not much more to say on the actual DQ itself. I mean, look, you've got to draw the line somewhere. The rule says 85 millimeters, and they gave Mercedes every chance to pass this test. I mean, they tested it 4 times, I want to say.
4 times.
Yeah. The comparison that's come out is that the 3 races in a row, Red Bull has had rear wing problems, and they have. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, those have never caused Red Bull to fail technical inspection. And at the same time, Parc Fermé allows you to change parts as long as they are like for like. This is... Thank you. Thank you, sinus infection. it is kind of uncommon to see this fine of a margin penalized when there was apparently damage. But at the same time, they've had damage throughout the year, and it hasn't caused them to fail inspections. So,
well, for the most part, like on the decision notice, it didn't note there being any damage. It noted that the mitigating circumstance that Mercedes was seeking was that, for the most part, you can make some changes in park for May, and that was the leeway Mercedes was seeking. But that leeway is pretty much only allowed for damage, which Mercedes didn't have.
See, they had claimed after the race after the session that there was damage, but this is also Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula One team. You never know which side of their mouth they're talking from.
I love the sniping between Wolf and Horner. I think it's great.
They're the same person, and it's hilarious.
Like, look, Toto Wolff is never losing that popularity contest because Lewis Hamilton drives for his team. They are politicians, they are as bad as each other, and the fact that Toto Wolff, in an amped up state after winning that race, compared a completely valid and justifiable penalty that his team and he is ultimately responsible for, and compared it to the racism that Lewis has suffered in his life, is completely laughably stupid.
It's a certified Mark Davis moment.
It's a disgusting statement.
And I guarantee you, if that was the man in purple from Milton Keynes down the road, there'd be pitchforks outside the factory tomorrow. It's not a fair fight. They are politicians. They are as bad as each other. Get a grip, internet, okay? Stop being so fucking tribalistic. Thank you and good night. Anyway, next non-controversial point. The clash between Verstappen and Hamilton.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, boy.
Descida do Lago. Turn 4, lap 48. Hamilton sizing up a move around the outside. They've been calling track limits consistently all throughout this weekend. Both cars go wide. Verstappen keeps the place ahead of Hamilton. The stewards don't have all the video evidence available at the time, so they rule no further investigation needed. And then
Massey told me he had a really good look. I mean, a really good look at it.
Clearly, this is all Ferrari International assistance somehow.
Of course, it's a flame Ferrari.
Yeah. John's got to get one good one in before he leaves.
Okay.
Oh, Lord.
In all seriousness, though, should Verstappen have been punished for that block, and did the lack of video evidence play a role in the no call from the stewards?
Shall I go first here?
Well,
Dre, everyone, here's the flame suits.
I'll stay brief on this one. I don't know. I'm just gonna be real. I don't know. Like, realistically, I think he probably would have gotten a black and white flag for it. Anything past that, I don't know.
Yeah, none of us are out here advocating that, like, no sane person is out here advocating Max Verstappen should be disqualified and excluded from the championship. No, like, at least, like...
Hey, we don't know. That is a possibility. And most likely, the hearing reviewing this will take place before this episode comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. That's on us getting this completely wrong. I don't like this kind of move. I don't like the fact that you can brake as late as humanly possible, in fact, too late, and run yourself off the circuit with your overtaker to defend your position. However, since about 2012, you can do that. And the FIA isn't really going to penalize you unless you cause a collision and take the other car out. There's There's at least half a dozen examples of people just opening up the steering, saying fuck you to the car on the outside, and running out wide. This was a more extreme example of that. And while I don't agree with it, for the most part, the FIA has been pretty consistent on it. The piece of this I disagree with is the total lack of an investigation. I'm with King. Should have been investigated. Probably should have been a black and white driving standards flag.
But nothing
beyond that. Beyond that, it's kind of at the discretion of the stewards.
Yeah. And now that it is after the fact, and we know what the race result is, and because at the end, Valtteri Bottas pushed hard to catch Verstappen, but not pass him, we're in a situation where if they review this penalty, and Max Verstappen gets a 5-second time penalty, he'll lose 3 points in the championship. And when we're talking about a championship that right now is within 15 points, every point matters.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, because even as it stands, Lewis still has to run the table to win the championship if Max finishes second.
So they got nothing to lose.
Yeah, and I mean, the way I look at it is I can understand why the stewards didn't investigate it. Mostly because the logic I had, and I said this on Twitter on Monday, was, can you conduct a fair investigation if you do not have all of the evidence available to you? I would also, on the counter myself, I would also say there was probably enough on the broadcast cameras to have a pretty good idea of what happened. You know, if somebody put a gun to my head, I would say 5-second time penalty for Max Verstappen. However, by the letter of the book, I do not know what constitutes a penalty anymore. I've said this, and I've named it the Verstappen Amendment, because I go back to Austria 2019, where Verstappen ran Charles Leclerc 4 wheels off a track on a penultimate lap of a Grand Prix to win the race. The stewards sat down for 2 hours, pulled a finger out of their butts, and let him keep it. At that point, I said, well, at this point, it's pretty much like it's a lottery. It's a lottery flip or a coin flip.
But that was overtaking and ramming someone off the circuit, which since that race seems to be perfectly fine unless you're Lando Norris or Sergio Perez.
Yeah, like I'll borrow a line from King where he's like, once the guy's got the apex, what happens afterwards is pretty much fair game at this point from the FIA. And so, honestly, I don't know what a penalty is anymore. So I had no, like I said on Twitter during the race, I have no opinion on this. Like, I just don't.
The problem is that both of them were about 10 meters from the apex.
Because that's the weird thing about Formula One and motorsport in general. In the past decade, every other major sports league around the world has incorporated either retired officials or just any person who has experience officiating the sport to be just an on-air analyst to explain the decision-making process. They might not be right all the time. They might even make a few minor errors, but they're there to explain the mindset to average viewers about what the line of thinking to a race official, well, in this case, a game official is in how they give out penalties.
And yeah, and this one didn't help when Massey let slip that, we didn't actually get Verstappen's onboard, which only fueled the fire on the internet further.
We had a good look at it. I mean, a really good look.
That's what opened the gate to a possible Mercedes appeal, because you have participants have the right to review penalties, whether they're like mistaken penalties or just total non-calls, if there's new evidence. And because Massey said that they didn't have this as evidence, and now this evidence is available, it's new.
Hang on, I'm Bill Belichick, throwing my challenge flag. There we go. Challenge flag's in. I'm appealing the decision. Look, I know a lot of people have screamed from the rooftops, and I've had 3-page paragraphs in my Twitter mentions about this. I would like to repeat this statement one more time, everybody. You are never going to get consistent stewarding in this damn sport. Not the way it is right now. We rotate too many stewards. The rule book is far too open to interpretation and mitigating factors, and there is such a wide range of penalties from no investigations at all to warnings, time penalties, drive-throughs, stop and goes. You are never.
I think you hit the
ever,
nail on the head.
Yeah.
Perfectly. Yeah. In the last 10 years, there has been enough different precedents set from different incidents between different drivers, and don't tell me that they don't penalize on outcome, because they clearly do, depending on the outcome. We don't know what constitutes a penalty anymore. And you can cite a dozen different incidents to claim a dozen different penalties.
Well, the thing is that, like, you can't even say anymore, because it's always been like this, because racing has a different tradition in terms of penalties and officiating compared to the quote-unquote traditional ball sports, where this is a tradition that stems from, you know, all the other sports that the landed gentry and sportsmen used to participate in, where racing, the closest equivalent to racing officiating is yacht racing, where it's on literally a case-by-case basis. Every investigation is different. Yes, they use precedent sometimes, but it's largely down to what happened in that situation and how do we adjudicate this in a way where we could somewhat make this right. Instead of, hey, you broke a certain rule, this is what the rule says the penalty is. It's literally two different traditions.
Yeah, you can't do that in Formula One. There is too many mitigating factors, there are too many variables involved, and there are too many potential outcomes. You will never get consistency in this game. It's just not going to happen.
The one thing that I like about how professional yacht racing, since that's a thing now, what in that compared to Formula One is number one, they have permanent stewards. That these people do it as their full-time job. Two, on pretty much in every recent broadcast, whether it be the America's Cup, the Olympic Games, or Sail GP, they always have a broadcast line open to race control, where someone from the race control team can explain how they made their decision and why they made that decision.
Transparency, I love it. King, you're talking dirty to me right now. It's beautiful.
I'm glad we could open the floor to this Boat Sport 101 segment.
Yeah, I'm here for it. We need all the
Water
nuance we
Sport
can get
101.
Unfortunately, one of the things that's carried over from this tradition is that if you think that a decision was made incorrectly, you do have legal means of appeal through either a literal court or a court-like body, which the FIA has on its own, and now we are literally taking this to a review, and if the review doesn't go the way Mercedes wants it to, they could appeal the decision on this review of a decision.
Oh God!
Yeah. This could go all the way up to the top courts in the FIA.
Yeah,
and if they don't like how things are at the FIA, once they reach the highest judicial body at the FIA, well, we're going to the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
How much do you want to bet? I will bet an unreasonably large sum of money that if this championship is decided by less than 3 points, we are not going to hear. We are going into 2024 before Mercedes lets this go.
King, as I told you, Cam, I will put $50 charity at your choice that it doesn't go all the way. But if you want to do $50 for charity, we'll do it. It was right here and now.
Oh God!
you heard it here first, folks. Okay, you know what, Cam, you're on.
That's if it gets denied and they keep this going, and this championship ends up on a count back, which it very well could, given how things are going right now.
Oh yeah,
we're never going to hear the end of this.
Oh yeah, we shall see. All this over a debatable 5-second penalty. You'll love F1.
Mercedes is going to bring this before Judge Judy.
Yeah, and before we move on, or Judge Jerry now, because Jerry Springer's a judge now. But I was going to say, I was going to say, look. To wrap this point up, who gives a shit? This is what F1 is all about. Marginal calls like this is what makes it so goddamn entertaining. So shut up and enjoy the goddamn show, you moaning bastards. Like,
Yeah, this
put
is
your
why
ally
I
in
like
the
my
way.
dumb
He's like it
sport.
in a while.
This is why I like this. This is why I like sailing, because we get moments where we have Ben Ainsley calling the race director an idiot.
I
Counterpoint.
saw that.
Counterpoint. Our boat died twice.
That's true. Our boat did go airborne at highway speeds and die.
Counterpoint. It was funny.
That's so true. Dre's got the only good take on our crappy boat. Hey, everybody, we did it. We survived an entire 3 races worth of sprint weekends. Yeah, we got a cargo from 20 to 5th. Yeah, does that mean the sprint is good?
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
Can't wait for 7 more next year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw up.
Look, I think it's safe to say that this is the definition of an outlier. Like, I joked about it on my Substack page that this was the perfect scenario for Ross Brawn to rub his hands and reach for the bottle of the baby oil, because this was the perfect scenario for his new format. Hamilton in a busted car from the back of the field. He's going to pick these dudes off one by one, and that is exactly what we got, because everyone and their mother knows that Hamilton is 2 seconds a lap faster than 80% of the goddamn midfield. Like,
Yeah.
we knew this.
Though a lot of people, and I agree with them, feel that this is solid proof that the sprint race could be entertaining if you just made changes, and that the sprint race is broken at the moment. But again, just make a couple changes and it'll be fine. And we already have teams out here saying, no, an actual reverse grid race would be different, because it would be hard. It would be a lot harder for the Mercedes to overtake a Red Bull if they both started at the back, and you would
You'd
end
have
up
the
with,
Red Bull clearing the way for the Mercedes.
Yeah, a lot of the teams are arguing that you would just get. There'd be no overtaking, actually, and there'd be a trade, and you'd end up with Haas winning the sprint race.
Let's go,
Okay,
Mick.
okay, hold up. Hold the goddamn phone. We could take the fuel flow limiters off of the Haas and give them a lap head start, and they'd still get their ass whooped.
Oh no. Don't you do Mick like that. Nikita Mazepin was crying on Saturday over how bad things are going.
Yeah,
Have some
yeah,
mercy.
Nikita
I feast on his.
decided before
I
that
feast on
interview.
his tears. I feast on his tears.
I wanted to make the point that it was a very brave call from his side of the garage to feed him the Hot Ones last dab after his interview.
This is the Adam Richmond challenge, where they dump the whole bottle of ghost pepper extract in just to smoke him out. That's
Can I
what
just
happened.
say? Can I just say, not to like derail this further, that I could not stand that Nikita Mazepin gave the most interesting quote after the sprint, and it was mostly just him talking way too much about how there's too much turnover at Haas, in particular on his side of the garage, and Gunther
dear.
Steiner's just having to rein it in like 5 minutes afterwards.
Because
Ooh.
again,
Yeah.
if there's a lot of turnover, particularly at his side of the garage, you gotta start asking questions. Why are a lot of people not wanting to work at the Nikita side of the garage? What's going on?
I think I think that's a team. I think that is a team with all of its bodily fluids leaking out, mainly blood.
I was gonna say who wants to work with this dead horse? Anyway, I mean, look, this was an outlier, and this was the perfect storm for Ross Brawn's endorsement of this format. Do not read too much into it.
Yeah, because
in my opinion.
outside of Hamilton and outside of Carlos Sainz jumping up to second on the first lap, there
was
were
fun.
nothing going on here. Same as in Silverstone, same as in Monza. I would, if it were up to me, I'd flip the top 10 from traditional qualifying, and that's how we start the sprint.
Is this not what I said after Monza? I said flip a random number of spots so people don't tank Q3. Sprint race gets a standalone race format, and we give more points out. Problem solved. Everybody's a winner.
And they
No,
won't
we
agree to
go-
it because of my
we go out.
meritocracy.
We go out before the sprint. We have a big glittery purple hat on the grid, and everyone
Thank
pulls
you.
their grid slot out of the hat.
We have celebrity.
Instead, again, do what they do, random number. But to determine the random number, like Dre was about to say, we have a random celebrity pick the number out of a hat. If they pick 12, well, guess what? 12 of y'all going to the bed.
See, this is
Ronaldo,
great.
come on down.
This is great because it offends F1 boomers who, one, hate anything that's not going to turn F1 into pure meritocracy, and two, hates celebrities that are not like lifelong F1 fans. It works for both ends.
Look, I love this idea already. We can get influencers come then. We can get a big spangly hat. We can put it on television before the sprint race starts. We can move them around on the grid if need be to add to the spectacle. Like it's gonna be like playing Mario Party. It's gonna be fantastic.
No, I'm from New York. So what you do is you're gonna get one of those bingo wheelbarrows, and you're gonna put a lot of envelopes in there, and then you're gonna spin the wheel. So I'm gonna reach in and pull an envelope out, and then
Is it the one with the bend in it?
I
The
keep it
F1 Sprint
classy.
qualifying draw brought to you by Side Talk NYC.
Yeah.
When we're at
All of
Suzuka,
that
it's
before we started recording this.
Yeah.
It's why we ended,
Yeah.
it's why we all ended up a bit hyper, and I always ask the question, how did King turn out so normal? God bless New York. But look,
Bing bong.
like
Bing bong.
I like Bing Bong, but I like that all of you have come round to my way of thinking on this one. I'm proud of you all. Like, I really am proud that I was able to convince an American United Kingdom coalition on the sprint. Like Ross, if you want to give me a call,
better idea. Got a better idea. We decide this 4 drivers at a time. A Mario Kart 64 battle mode.
Perfect. Problem solved. If not, just put them on Rainbow Road. Before we get out of here, we have now confirmed the entire 2022 grid. The final seat was filled. It was announced a couple of days ago that Guan Yu Zhou will be heading to the second Alfa Romeo seat to partner Valtteri Bottas, China's first ever Formula One driver. Good for him. Honestly, he's a lovely guy.
I need to issue a correction at this point because somebody had figured this out a couple days ago because there was an Alfa Romeo dealership in Shanghai that put up a banner saying congratulations to Guan Yu Zhou on being China's first F1 driver. People were not
The
sure
ultimate
if this
inside
was
scoop.
real. Like, somebody is getting a call from corporate.
Yeah, like you
Enthusiasm.
either got this wrong or you broke an NDA real hard. Either way, hire a lawyer.
I mean, King, I know you had a lot to say on this one on the Twitters because annoyingly, this one got kind of ugly in terms of an announcement.
Yep, because people in the replies immediately went to, Guan Yu Zhou does not deserve that seat at what is relatively a back-of-the-field team. There were more deserving drivers. Guan Yu Zhou paid for that seat, and then it just started going further and further, where it's like, yeah, F1 shouldn't be letting a Chinese money come into the sport, and I'm like, whoa, guys, slow down. Some people took it even further than that, saying that we can't condone the actions of the People's Republic of China, and I'm like, guys, Guan Yu, admittedly, we don't know yet who are Guan Yu Zhou's specific sponsors that got him the F1 seat, because again, he didn't have a lot of backing financially in his career up until this point.
Dude spent most of his racing life in Sheffield in the UK. This man is practically half
Yeah, like
British.
he's of all the quote unquote pay drivers, he really has never been that big of a financial asset to a team he's driving for.
Yeah.
No, he's just good. He's just really good. Look, was he the absolute optimum number one pick on the board? Probably not.
Yeah, no.
However,
Everyone knows
Definitely
this.
not.
And the thing is, those that look, I don't envy any of you Oscar Piastri stands out there. I know Cuffing Season was a hilarious episode for you. However, Guan Yu Zhou is absolutely good enough to be in Formula One.
Absolutely. He was good enough. Everything that I saw of him in 2019, when he won the Antoine Hubert Rookie of the Year award in Formula 2, and was a regular contender for race wins every weekend. The guy's good enough.
He is fine.
Honestly, just like how a lot of people want to refuse that other binaries, still exist, this is on a spectrum. No one gets to F1 solely on either merit or payment anymore.
I just say, does everyone remember that shitty pay driver, Ayrton Senna?
Yeah.
I was more of a Michael Schumacher fan myself, you see.
What a scrub. Paid to get his spot in the sport. Do you realize how stupid that argument is?
Everyone remember that page driver Juan Manuel Fangio?
I know, right? It's terrible. Whatever happened to him anyway?
Guan Yu Zhou could end up getting clapped 20 something. He could get 20 bald and head qualifying next year. And we could all have a mea culpa saying that maybe Guan Yu Zhou wasn't that good. I don't know. But I'd like to think that he's shown on the merit of his abilities that he's good enough. I mean, no, he did not exactly light up in Formula 3, but it's more encouraging if you take a big step forward from F3 to F2 anyway, because Carlos Sainz Jr. was not that good in F3 and GP3. But nobody talks about that now because he's been perennially the most underrated driver in the grid for a number of years now.
Yeah.
Well, how you perform in the junior formula does not necessarily nail on how you're going to perform at the top. Case in point, our new MotoGP world champion, Fabio Quartararo, who was 20,000 tons of mid in the junior formula in motorcycles.
One career win before he got to MotoGP.
The thing is, I wouldn't go down that line of thinking yet, because we don't know if Guan Yu Zhou is going to be great in F1 or not.
We don't.
I think it's important.
That's exactly it.
I think it's important to focus on that no one gets to F1 solely on merit. Some do heavily, get in on merit, but there are also commercial aspects to why they got signed. Yes, Max Verstappen was a once-in-a-generation talent, but there was definitely, from a commercial standpoint, a reason for Red Bull to sign him. Because when Red Bull first entered F1, their goal was to have the youngest ever F1 champion. And guess what box Max Verstappen checks? Hey, we can lower that record even more than we lowered it already.
Yeah,
not quite anymore.
Yeah, not quite anymore.
But they did with Vettel, and case in point, Vettel was pretty good in the junior formula.
Yeah.
No matter what you say, he's a 4-time Formula One world champion.
Yeah.
You just don't know until they get there.
And to make a grander point, the pound for pound best 20 never make it into F1 at the same time. F1, I'd say on par score any given year, there are 15 seats that are pretty much locked in before you even start talking about transfers and who could make it in and who couldn't. We've been spoilt rotten with young talent the last 3 or 4 years as it is. Next year's grid will have 9 Formula 2 graduates in it next year. Half the field will be a Formula 2 graduate next season. And yes, Nicholas Latifi is not Lando Norris. I completely understand that. But it has never existed in Formula 1 where the pure 20 best drivers in the world have been in there at the same time. That's just not how this sport works. And we would find a way to hate it if it was purely a meritocracy game, or if it was purely a rich man's club, because we will always have more talent than seats available. This time last year, we were sitting down debating whether 3 Ferrari graduates could come up at the same time, even though in the back of our heads we probably all knew that wasn't actually going to happen.
Also, again, if you're any major manufacturer, how could you ever turn down the opportunity to have the first Formula One driver from the People's Republic of China? A massive country.
Ask Alpine.
Yeah, a massive country with, a burgeoning middle class who definitely have the paychecks to start following F1 and start buying cars. And again, as RJ alluded to, Alpine, because Guan Yu Zhao was in the Alpine Academy. Before Alpine, Guan Yu Zhao was in the Ferrari Driver Academy. These companies want to make an inroad in the People's Republic of China, and this is probably going to be their one opportunity, because there isn't another Chinese driver on the junior ladder. And
don't let these last 2 years fool you. We did once, in fact, have a Chinese Grand Prix. In fact, it's probably coming back soon, because they just signed a contract.
It's back in 2023. It's back in 2023.
I feel like people just want to get off their they want to co-opt the feeling of, we are very concerned about actual bad stuff that's happening in the People's Republic. They want to use that to wrap up an even shittier take.
It's dog whistling.
Yeah,
Call it what it is.
Dog whistling, and and of course, obviously, there are human rights concerns in the People's Republic of China.
Yeah, we're not ignorant to that.
We're not ignorant of that. But the thing is that, number one, we were still racing there for a while. Where were y'all at when that was happening?
I say, where are we racing in, the next 3 races?
3 races. And there are a lot of drivers from countries that have questionable human rights records, and no one's saying that they shouldn't be in F1. And no one's implying that their money comes from their country's government that's doing this. Which,
right.
Again, Zhou is not a lightning rod for all of us to bash the country of China with.
Yeah.
He's not all of our... It's not fair to him.
No.
He's just one guy who happened to be pretty damn good in a racing car. We'll see how F1 goes. And he's got a Formula One seat now.
Yeah, because again, you start making these arguments, you open up a lot of things that you probably don't want to discuss. Like, again, when Ayrton Senna entered F1 as a paid driver, his biggest sponsor, National Bank, which, again, everyone still wears National Bank caps, was a state-owned bank of the military dictatorship of Brazil.
Brazil!
So, do you really want to go down that rabbit hole?
No, you don't. And let's just leave that one there. I mean, look, best of luck to Guan Yu Zhou. I think he'll be just fine in a decent Alfa Romeo.
He loves his
seat over
shoes.
there.
He's got great taste in shoes and fashion. I
appreciate that.
I am on Alfa Romeo's 2022 lineup. I am certainly whelmed.
Yeah. It's a decent lineup for a low end team. Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou, that's a solid lineup for a team that's probably going to finish 9th in the constructors this year.
If they actually build a good car, they would be the surprise package.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
That's a big if, but I get what you're saying. And look, best of luck to Antonio Giovinazzi. He'll be heading over to the Dragon Formula E team next year. Good luck to
you
him.
want to talk about teams that really need to stop fumbling the bag. On the subject of AJ Foyt racing with Kirkwood, now it's Dragon Penske with Giovinazzi and Sergio Sette Camera.
If Jesus can't help Dragon, nobody can help Jay Penske.
Perfect. That is the perfect quote to end the show on. Beautiful. Faces, you can find us one more time. We're on youtube.com/motorsport101. We're on facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101. Our personal handles on the screen at Harris101HD, at RJ O'Connell, at Ryan Eric King, at CBuckley917. We're on Instagram at Motorsport101pod. We're on our website, motorsport101.com, and our Patreon, patreon.com/motorsport101. You can find us on there, and you can back us financially if you really like us. Now, I know what you're all thinking. What about that riding guy in Valencia, the Italian fella that might have done his last race?
Petrucci?
We'll get to him. We'll be back for that on YouTube in a couple of weeks' time. stay tuned on that. Keep an eye on our social media. But yeah, don't worry. We're giving Valentino Rossi some special attention here.
I thought it was Thomas Ludi.
Oh, I like Thomas. Thomas Ludi, 318
Vanilla
Grand Prix, the
Petrucci.
gatekeeper. And we love Petrux. Who doesn't love Petrux? He had a hat and tie on the grid, and he was hugging. He was in tears before it even started. One of the great dudes in bike racing. And look,
Iker
as a shout out, yeah.
About all that.
Sorry. According to a certain Van Man journalist, we have to pay equal attention to every man who is leaving this sport. So I will now be exiting the podcast as Andre Harrison of 300 podcast appearances. Anywho. Shout out to Patrick, shout out to Thomas Luti. We'll be talking more a bit about Valentino Rossi soon. We'll be back next week for the final round of this triple header. It's a brand new race for Formula One. It's the Qatar Grand Prix. We're not holding out too much hope for this one, but hey, you never know, right?
Nah, screw Qatar. I'm spending my weekend at Monza. Rally Monza, baby. Rally Monza. We love Rally Monza.
We
And
love
of
Rally
the
Monza.
Sebastian Ogier fan club, Mr. Ryan Eric King.
Yes. We will wrestle King back from his Rally of Monza for next week's show, we promise. We'll have him taped to the chair like Will Smith that time it was in Abu Dhabi with Lewis Hamilton. But until next week, where we're going to review Qatar, I've been Dre Harrison, they've been RJ O'Connell, Ryan Eric King, and Cam Buckley. Until next time, thank you very much for watching and listening. Sayonara.
Later, y'all!
What?
Run the Monza banking for the rally, you cowards.
They will.
Yeah, let's go!
So, King, what happened to you that one time you were on iRacing with it?
No comment.